that they are progressively disappearing in the country. So we want to see where they will stop. And as you say, it is particularly important in Rome, because in Rome the major is of the five stars. So I'm not expecting surprises in terms of who will win. So the center left. I'm very curious about how many votes will the five stars take, and apart from how many votes the big news of this election, which is Volt, will take. The
Exactly.
other parties are very, very limited expectation. I think what is interesting for the people who doesn't know the Italian situation is that, as you can see, there are a limited number of parties. This used not to be in the past. Usually we have many other parties, because the political scenario in Italy is reaggregating in different forms. And so there are important parties that you don't see in this election. One is the party of the former Prime Minister Renzi, which is not participating. Then there is another party of Mr. Calenda, which is called Azione, Action. Calenda is one possible candidate as a future mayor in Rome. He's not participating. Più Europa, that last time had a very good result in the same territory, is not present. So as you see, a lot of little parties, the new parties, do not have the representation in the territory. They have big names, but then when you come to local presence of voluntaries, they don't have it. And so it is strange to say that we have a presence in the territory, in all Italy. We have a presence in Rome. We know we are not as many as we would like to be, but when we look at the other parties, surprise, surprise, they are even less than us. So that's very interesting, and we want to see the result of this.
Guido, thank you very much for your inputs. I think we had again some technical problems, but they should be solved right now. We are sorry again, but as you know, we are running on a extremely low budget in general, and as our campaign was probably.
We know the feeling. We know the feeling.
So it's 3 minutes to 11 o'clock when the ballots are closing. We do not expect to have exit polls because it is actually a very, very small area which has about 160,000 voters, but the turnout was at 15% at 7 in the evening. At 19, we expect it to be lower than 20%, which is still higher than what happened in Naples last week, because in Naples last week there was another by-election for the Senate in that case, because a former five-star movement senator passed away. So there was a by-election, and this by-election was won instead by the center-left candidate, journalist Sandro Ruotolo. So the Democratic Party, or better, the center-left coalition, gained the seat in the Senate because at first it went to the five-star movement. In this occasion, the Democratic Party is defending its own seat that was earned by Paolo Gentiloni. The Democratic Party, which had a very big loss in March 4th, 2018 election, was instead the biggest party in the constituency with 31% of the vote. But Più Europa, which is not running tonight, and it's not in coalition anymore with the Democratic Party because Più Europa is opposing this strange government between the Democratic Party and Five-Star Movement. Più Europa got 9.3%, which is an extremely high result considering that they, at the national level, they did not went through the threshold of 3%. And it's a party that it has been in contact with Volt recently. They wrote a public email to Volt asking for a cooperation. We are open to cooperation with any progressive party, not exclusively Più Europa, but on this occasion we thought it would have been better to run in an autonomous way and try to bring on our ideas. The center-right coalition was the second. Altogether, they received 30%. Berlusconi's party, Forza Italia, was with 12%, but most likely they lost, as they did in the last couple of years, while Giorgia Meloni's party, the far-right Fratelli d'Italia, Brothers of Italy, has raised. They were at 9%, now most likely they are over 15%, as well as Salvini's party Lega. Movimento 5 Stelle reached 16% at the 2018 elections in this constituency, and we do not expect them to do any better as they lost nearly half of their support within the whole country. Then there was a leftist party named Liberi Uguali, Free and Equals, which was running alone 2 years ago. In this occasion, they are supporting instead Roberto Gualtieri, as they are running in the same government coalition. And then there were a lot of smaller parties. Just to make an example, Potere al Popolo, Power to the People, is at 2%, was at 2% better. Popolo della Famiglia, the Families homophobic party, was at 0.57, as well as the Communist Party at 0.37. So we may be running as the fourth biggest party in the area, considering that the left, the center left, the center right, and the Movimento 5 Stelle are likely to reach at least about more than 10% of the votes. It's 11 o'clock. Yeah. It is over. I mean, the ballots are closed. The polling stations are being closed. We do not expect to have exit polls. But Daniele, what do you think we legitimately can expect from tonight's election?
Oh, well, my guess at this point is that given such a low turnout, what we managed to have accomplished in the street, which in the previous interview with Guido said we managed to reach a lot of people that managed to be interested in us. It's likely people that would have not voted if it was not for us. So if we're gonna see if we have this effect on people that were undecided or didn't want to vote in this election, or if we manage, or if we are getting from the people that are already engaged in politics, and so the vote can go either way and tell us. Since we don't have any previous experience to look at, it's gonna tell us whether we are gathering votes from the people that wouldn't vote normally, and so we can expect a pretty good result, a pretty visible result given our average. Or if we are getting votes from the people that are already voting, we are just gonna stay in the low 5% to 5%. I don't know. Actually, that is the interesting thing I would say, is how many people we manage to reach.
Yeah, I'm expecting voters to be people that usually vote at the elections, so people that were already voting last time. There was a 73% turnout last time. We don't have the last turnout data from Rome, but it was 14%, so much lower, still bigger than what was in Naples. So we can actually expect people to come and vote for us at a bigger extent than what they would do, for instance, for the center-right coalition that has always suffered in by-elections. Next week, actually, there will be another by-election at the Senate, and that is really critical because it will be in a constituency where the right won 2 years ago. So the senator left the post to become the president of the region Umbria. So she's going to be she may be replaced by a member of the majority, so which is really tight at the Senate. So that is a really critical, and there will be a much stronger race for that role. Unfortunately, Volt won't be there, as that is a region where we don't have so many members as in Rome. But of course, it is going to be interesting, and it's a really interesting season in Italy. Of course, the news in these days is all about the coronavirus that has also sparked some political debate among the opportunity to close public institutions or schools or municipalities, and the behavior of some politicians, mostly on the right, which were kind of panicking the population. I don't know if you would agree with me, Daniele.
We can say that the response to the virus outbreak has been there's been a lot of misinformation spread around, and as the usual forces that tend to use that misinformation to spread fear and confusion among people have rode the wave as they usually do, and most of these people, yeah, they are on the right. Um, and we have seen that most that Rome was also less populated because of the virus, and so some people, the virus had some real effects on the turnout. Apparently, we cannot say for sure, but there's been a relatively large turnout for a by-election. But we know that we're still talking 20%. I think 20. I don't think it's gonna even reach that if we look at the trends. And so, at 20% of people voting means that there is a lot of people that don't even know that there is a vote today. If you go around and ask, and there is that in that people that know that there is a vote, there are some people that are actively deciding not to vote. Some of these decisions might have been moved by the coronavirus itself. We know that at the electoral polls, people were wearing gloves, and the people attending, working at the polls, were wearing gloves. If I believe the reports that I'm seeing, and in general, we are seeing that the press is being quite silent about this. It's talking much more about the coronavirus outbreak and not a lot about this by-election. Not even the local newspaper that I could find had a lot to say about this before this day.
In the meanwhile, if anybody from Rome can and wants to intervene, they're more than welcome. As we were figuring out, there are no exit polls. Not even the Rome newspapers have this news as the main one. Maybe it can be because the result of this, the expected result of this election is quite known, or better, we expect the center-left coalition to retain this seat at the end of the evening. For your information, we're gonna go around midnight or half past midnight, depending on when the result will be a little bit more clear. We don't think we're going to be live for too long. If there is anybody in Rome, they are more than welcome to intervene. Otherwise, I will ask Daniele to introduce candidates, including our candidate, Luca Lomuzio.
All right. Well, this is there's gonna be some Wikipedia to do about that because some of these candidates are fairly new. Like Luca is not the only first timer in this race. So we while we can talk at length about Roberto Gualtieri, the likely winner, he is currently uh, actually, I don't have the data in here. The page is not loading. Sorry.
Minister of Economic Development.
Let me pull that up again. Sorry.
Minister of Economic Development.
Yeah, if you talk about him, there's been an interesting debate about it. That's because being him the minister, he participated in an interview 2 days ago in a full electoral silence, and this interview has been published. And of course, the far right candidates spark an outrage about double rules, and that's already an interesting thing that we can say about this an interesting event. Uh, let me pull the data. Okay.
Yeah, because actually he is the Minister of Economic Development, but he was not a member of the parliament, so it sends also a message out there to promote. He's actually one of the ministers who have been mostly on the news recently, because the economic development minister was indeed disgust for the measures that the previous government, still run by Conte, but in a coalition with the Lega Nord, Salvini's party, was. So there was the basic income, the management of basic income, which turned out to popular and to successful because a lot of people received, while not as many people as they were expecting received this this bonus for their daily life, and less than 20% of the people managed to find a job, and most of them did not find a stable job. A lot are in southern Italy, where the economical conditions are much poorer than in the rest of the country. And so he was sort of called to work in a very difficult situation. There is also the aspect of the retirement reform, quota 100, the 100 quote, which is, or better, maybe level 100 can be the right translation, which was promoted by Salvini, and now it seems that they cannot get away with a different reform because that would leave a lot of people unsatisfied out of their end of career, and they would also lose a lot of support, especially Movimento 5 Stelle, which was promoting this law at the beginning. So I think Mr. Gualtieri is in between very, very big areas of debate, and he is kind of trying to find a confirmation for his politics, as the situation has been so unbalanced before and still is unbalanced between the two coalition partners.
Right, and we have then it's a similar situation to the one we've seen in the Emilia-Romagna stream, in which we've been part of, in which we have a strong candidate on the left, which is not running with a symbol, with the party symbol, but as himself. That's the same thing that Bonaccini did. He made a coalition that ran under its name, but not directly tied to the party, without the symbol of the party he was running in. But he's definitely still part of that party. That is a similar situation for Gualtieri, and just like in Emilia-Romagna, we have a right-wing coalition candidate that is sustained by all the center and center-right and far-right situation, except for the homophobe Popolo della Famiglia. There is this Maurizio Leo, who is a constitutional judge. And he's been doing politics for not many years. He's not a judge. He's a lawyer and a tributary right professor. He's been in politics in the Rome Council for 6 months. He's been looking at the accounts. So he's also someone with a legislative economic background, similar to Roberto Gualtieri. He is sustained by 4 parties in his ticket, which he is showing the symbol. We know that it's Lega and Forza Italia, and they're all, they are sustained by even the farther right, which you might know has many followers in Rome, in some areas that are outside of this circumscription. Then we talk about Adinolfi. Adinolfi is sometimes a local celebrity for his being in Italy, for his being a journalist with a lot of political experience, and a known homophobe, which also had some exchanges through Twitter with our candidate, since Luca is asking him, our candidate being with a husband and a family of his own, how his union would be a threat to his word. Adinolfi is campaigning against the gay rights, and so is a natural enemy of our candidate in that sense. And there was no answer on his end for as far as I could see. We have the five-star movement candidate, which is Rossella Rendina, and also she is completely new to politics. As it happens, you might know that the five-star movement been a completely an online movement. She ran in the internal platform of the five-star movement, and she won the ticket
She
to
was
be the
actually
one running.
she was actually alone. She was the only one running. They had two competitors, but one of them did not fulfill their rights, so she was the only one with with the full running, which would be understandable for a movement as Volt. Not that much for a movement that has got 32% at the national level and is running the city of Rome with their own mayor.
Yeah. It's interesting in these cases how you can see a movement, a party like the Five Star Movement, which is in theory very structured and has got and used to have a lot of votes. That is not been the case in the last since the last election. So in the last 6 months actually, but up until even last summer, it was still a large party with a lot of votes. And we have seen that they have not proved to have a solid infrastructure, and this is just another of proof. Their only candidate that managed to qualify for being a potential candidate is a first timer in this election, and we haven't heard much from her in the news. Then we have the far left tickets, and they are the Potere al Popolo has Elisabetta Canicano, which is a gynecologist and a feminist, an outspoken feminist. And then we have the Communist Party, which has Marco Rizzo, the current general secretary of the Communist Party. He has a long past in Italian communism, and then that's it. We have these candidates here. As you can see, I could from the silence that's been around these elections, made it hard for us to from outsiders to see what to search more about these candidates, because there is a few public interviews, there is few public exchanges, especially when they are being outshadowed. Today, the day of the election, has been outshadowed by the fact that the city was closed to cars.
Exactly, there was because as the climate crisis and the pollution in big cities are striking a lot of the major cities have been closed to traffic, and that was the same for Rome, apart from those who were clearly going to the polling stations to vote. But I think we can also introduce you to our candidate, Luca Lomuzio Lezza, because is in line with us, and we are extremely pleased. Luca, how are you? Are you stressed? Are you calm? What is going on there?
Actually, the polling station just closed, so now we are waiting for some information, because I guess we got the results of this election quite soon, and not so many people went to vote today. The point is that this election, as you said before, they were really like the best under silence, we would say in Italy. The point is that really none of the other party has done a major campaign for this. They have approached to this election in a way in a clubbing way. Let's say like this. It doesn't like let's see on this territory, in this part of Rome, whom of us will have the most members in the local clubs, let's say. So the point is that it's really like an election for the politicians themselves. And this actually is what we have fighted against for. So the point is that we always had the idea that these elections should have been carried on in the direction of people getting interested in policy, in politics, and having an idea of the future of Rome itself, and voting according to this. And as you said, the candidate for the hashtag movement never even show up on the television debate. And the point is that I guess that for them it's quite hard to do a campaign against their own economy minister. So I guess because of this they just ignored this election. And for the left, the center left, of course, it was like, okay, I have my minister there, and he has a lot of things to do, especially in this moment, with all the things that are going around the country, and of course he doesn't have that much time to spend in this election. And on the other side, we do have a lot of clubs around the city, of people that would vote for us anyway. The center-right has done the same, more or less. They just like the candidate doesn't. It was not standing like. It was not something like. I'm really fighting for something, and I really believe in something. I wanna fight this government or whatever. It was just like, okay, just debating. And in other hands, the small parties, so for example, the communists instead, the Popular Familia, no, they were actually really vocal about their policy, but that they were policy that are like outrageous, like Popular Familia is really homophobic, as it said, and Marco Ricci was really against the European Union. He even said on television during the debate with all the candidates that the problem for Italy is that Brussels decides, like if in Brussels there were, I don't know, aliens deciding for our future. So this was really, really concerning from this election. Anyway, we carried on all these 2 months of election in a completely different way. We tried to speak to the people, like talk with them, chat with them in the street, asking for their opinions, asking for like what they think is not working in the city. Also, because I would like to remember these elections are uninominale, so it means there is
single member
parliamentary guy. Exactly, but it's like a member of the parliament that is really related to the territory where he is elected. It's something like, okay, you're really expressing the needs of Rome in this case. So I do think that it's important to know the problem of the place where you're coming from. And so while we were collecting signatures, there actually were a lot of signatures in a small amount of time, but it was really, really funny. I had like the best time of my life almost doing this signature collection. And anyway, it was a perfect timing for like getting all the information from the people. Not because like they already had the solutions to the problems, of course not. But the point is that at least they know the problems. They can like underline something that perhaps we thought it was not so important. But anyway, you get to know better the city where you live in.
Luca, I have a. Yeah, sorry if I interrupt you. For those who just connected to our broadcast, you're here in Luca Lomuziolezza, the running candidate for the Rome1 constituency in the Italian Parliament. Luca, I saw you did something extremely interesting in our working space. We do it online because we live in so many different places, but you ran a survey asking to the volunteers of Volt what they would like to see in the campaign. So you picked 2 or 3 suggestions, which were extremely interesting for for your campaign. So something that, if you're elected,
Exactly.
you would take to the parliament. What are those three suggestions that you picked?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the point was like, okay, we do have a program, an amazing program, but at the same time, I wanted to have a campaign under the com level, all the communication goes around the candidate. This would be like shared, where all voters, at least around Italy, would say, okay, yes, this is something that I really can relate with. These are really the things that I would like to fight for. So I decided to like run this survey based on, of course, on this survey there were only the the things that the policy team proposed for the program for the national election. And what came out from this survey is that all voters in Italy were really interested in gender gap, in education, in circular economy. I mean, on all those subjects that are actually our identity. So the nice thing is that I was really not so much surprised. So it was almost like a confirmation of, okay, I'm in the right party. I really can embody the vision that this party wanna carry on during this election. And for example, the congedo di paternità paritetica, I mean the idea that both men and women should have a free time when a child is born. Of course,
Yeah, paternity leave.
Paternity leave, yeah.
exactly. The paternity leave, and that must be mandatory. Because the point is that in Italy right now, we are like discussing on like having 2 days more, extend 5 days, whatever it is. But this doesn't solve a problem that is the gender gap. The point is that if I'm an enterprise and I have to choose between a woman that will go for the maternity leave for 3, 5 months and a man that will leave his job for 5 or maximum 10 days, it's completely different. Of course, if I'm an enterprise and I know that if the guy goes out for leave, I will have to pay someone else in his place and it will be costly for me. I would choose the man just because it's more convenient for me. It's not because I'm like an honorable guy. It just is convenient. And markets normally work like this. And we do think that the states should find solution to avoid this misworking of the market. So of course, if you say, okay, you have a child, both the mother, so also the father, should go on the same leave, and it's mandatory. It's not something that you, okay, perhaps I will not do, because we know how it works in Italy. If it's something that you can choose to do, okay, perfect. Your boss would say, okay, what do you choose?
Yeah.
You choose to
More,
go to
more
leave.
likely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
The boss will tell you
not
what
so.
to choose. People don't have much leverage.
And this is the point. And it's not only a matter of, okay, there will be less women being hired, but the point is that it will be much harder for women to compete in the working environment. There will be more women leaving, like saying, okay, I quit my job, I just stay with my child, and I will have my husband working, and that's it. So this child, these daughters, will have, as an example, mothers that quitted, say just, okay, it's not for me to work, just because the working environment was not friendly to them. Because normally, I mean, actually, obviously, both women and men can offer the same things to enterprises, the same expertise, they both have the same capacity of working. So this for me was really a nice proposal that we were making, a nice point for our campaign. And of course, we worked a lot over instruction, research, and circular economy, green economy. So of course, these were all the theme that we that we point on which we based actually our campaign, and it was an amazing campaign. It was really fun to see people like getting to know our proposal, like commenting it and saying, no, but you cannot say this. It's just on the other side. Oh, please, this I've always thought like this. I think that this is what we need. So it was like a way of understanding it. Yes, we're doing the right. I mean, we're going on the right direction, and this was really nice actually.
Daniele, do you have any question for Luca?
Yeah, the first question that comes to mind is you with this campaign you managed to have a lot of outreach with the Rome people, with the communities of Rome, and so even we know that it's unlikely this election is going to give us some visibility in the Roman communities, and so the obvious question is, what are you thinking about the future since the Roman elections are coming up? If you and the Bold Rome team are looking at this campaign as a step towards gaining having public awareness about Bold, and then use that to run already in the forward. So if you also managed to get some ideas about Rome itself from the people that you managed to speak with, if you already see some ideas on how to direct that campaign, and well, if you are going to run for it, of course, I hope you will.
So yeah, I must say that we learned a lot. This election was really an amazing time for learning how to do, like how a campaign should be carried on. So it was really like almost like a classroom, let's say. On the same time, of course, we do foresee these elections that are coming, and we did realize how hard it is to manage a campaign against our friends in Hamburg and all the other cities around Europe that have done something like this do already. How difficult can be to run a campaign, but on the same time, we're learning a lot. So I guess in 1 year time, we can actually start to think how to deal with the local election here in Rome. Because imagine, the point is that the local election in Rome are a big thing. It's really complicated, because the point is that you have like the central government of the city, the local government of the city, that are like it's like 13 small pieces that are actually as big as a medium-sized city somewhere else. So imagine, it's like a lot of people working, a lot of people that must be candidates, and there are a lot of parties playing this game. So for sure it will be much harder than the campaign that we have just finished. But the point is that it's the next step. So of course we decided to run for this Elezioni Suppletive because we wanted to know how it is. We wanted to learn something. We wanted to share actually the thing that we did learn during this election with other people inside Bold. Next election in Italy, for example, will be in Tuscany, and we worked a lot together, like almost like a staffetta, like okay, I finish and you start. And actually, they already did start since a month. But also around Europe, it's something that I do think that it's important, because this experience can make us grow, independently of in which country we're doing. It's an experience that is really key for a party. Like we must do it, and for sure, like next election, the local election, we will have to decide how to deal with them. Because I mean, there are several options, and of course the values, the ideas that we fight for must be at the center of it, and the political debate around it will be interesting. I mean, it will be a nice moment to like understand what we've done, understand what we can do, and decide what is better for us. Like which one is the better solution. Personally, like now I'm really speaking just for myself, so just a normal vote member because I'm not since like 1 hour, I guess, like 30 minutes. I'm no longer even a candidate, just like a normal member. It's just I would like to say that I, if I would be a citizen, I would like to see again the Volt logo on the scheda electorale. I would really like to see again Volt written there and like make it real. This is really a nice feeling. This actually is the only thing that I feel like to say right now.
Luca,
Yeah,
Go on,
go ahead, Enrico. You wanted to ask something?
yeah, I actually
All right.
now it's the time for uncomfortable questions for our candidate Luca. You mentioned the Hamburg election, which was probably the best result that Volt got in a local election because we got 1.3%, which meant for Volt to be the second biggest growing party in the Hamburg state, just behind the Green Party, which is a big hype right now with all the Fridays for Future hype and so on. So we went on the news, we went out of the news in Hamburg, and that was, was a great result for us. So my first question is, what result would you consider satisfactory for tonight election, provided that we still don't have any data because there is no exit poll going on? We don't even know the turnout. And the second question, the second uncomfortable question is, right now in Italy, we have, let's say, a center to left government because we have the Democratic Party, the Movimento 5 Stelle, Five Star Movement, which is a populist party which is transversal to left or right. And then we have a smaller party, which is the Sinistra Italiana, the Italian left. There is also Matteo Renzi's party, Italia Viva, which is on the center left. He just left the Democratic Party a few months ago. And is creating a lot of chaotic things around the parliament because it's threatening to take off the confidence out of the Prime Minister Conte. So, would you actually vote the confidence? It won't be asked to you in case you would be elected because this won't be a step. But if you ever have to vote the confidence to this government, would you or would you not?
Okay, so let's start from this last question because I guess it's the most uncomfortable one. So let's stick to the default. That's the first thing. I mean, the point is this: they already asked me this, and I must say, I mean, the answer is not easy. The point is this: I do think that we should be more. We should care more about ideas and actual proposal, like what actually is doing a government. Am I like, is this law that they are proposing, whatever it is, it's in accordance to my value? It's something that goes at least in that direction. So, for example, I do think that minority government are something that we should be exploring in Italy. I don't understand why there should always be like a majority, even if it's like blinded one with people that really doesn't share that much. The point is this government doing something right? I would vote again, like in favor of all the laws that go in the direction. So anyway, as there must be a confidence vote, I would say that at first, just like say, okay, I just arrived, I give you credit, I see that you are like fighting for the European Union, more or less, as you are more or less going towards a direction that is of trying to make this country a bit more flexible and a bit more friendly to workers and enterprises. Okay, I can vote yes on this first confidence vote. Then I will evaluate what we are doing. If after 1 year or whatever it is, I see nothing going on, I see that the situation is the same as it was before, and that this parliament and this government is not going anywhere, it's just staying there and taking time that could be much better, like could be used in a much better way. Okay, at that point, I wouldn't vote for. It's something like, I would vote for confidence, but staying outside the government. Just okay, I give you credit. Go and try to make something better. As okay, you have a large part of the country that trusts you, and if a large part of the country trusted you, I must respect it. And on the same time, I must say that I'm really afraid of what there could be instead of them. Because the point is that I see on the other side, like it was when this government actually was made, like an org, I mean, populism, but the worst one, the one that really goes against the human dignity, and that scares me a lot. So of course I don't share the ideas that this government sometimes put in place, but on the same time, I must realize that perhaps, okay, it's just because I'm young, and I would like to see a society that is more similar to what I feel like I need. But I cannot be sure, I cannot ask people of 60 years old or whatever it is to think me. So I must understand that in some way we have to go, like, to get together. But of course, the point is that there are always values, and these values are the not the compass, I mean the boussole. Doesn't come to my mother word. So the point that I have to follow the route that my values oblige me to follow. Because I must be true to myself and to the people that I do represent. But on the other side, actually I do forgot. Which one was the first question?
What do you expect from tonight? I mean, which percentage would satisfy you?
Let's say, first of all, already being there on the ballots, having our logo, having involved purple there, it's already something to celebrate. Because in Italy it's not easy at all. We've seen on the European election. So really, to have the logo there is already something that I wouldn't have thought before. It's something like when we started this adventure in December, we weren't sure we would arrive at so far. So I'm already happy that I did it. But if I must say what I do expect from this election, but it's pretty easy. If we do confirm what we had in Emilia-Romagna's election, I guess 1 month ago, perfect. I will be okay, because it's something like they're in Emilia-Romagna.
Wait. I interrupt you, but there is a first result in the first section, and it is saying that the movement, the five-star movement in the first section was closed, collapsed. So the five-star movement was at the last place. Unfortunately, Volt got no vote in this section. It was 1,700 people, and the biggest majority voted for Gualtieri. So Gualtieri is strongly ahead with 92 votes. The second candidate was Maurizio Leo for the center right with 17 votes. And actually, Mario Adinolfi, the candidate of the Family People, is on third place, so even ahead of the five-star movement. Actually, the five-star movement has been overrun even by Beta Canitano from Power to the People, so the five-star movement completely collapsed. There is, unfortunately, no vote for Volt. We hope to have a better outcome in the next sections that are in the next polling stations. But this is really surprising. I mean, the five-star movement went completely off. Luca, back the word to you.
Yeah. No, of course, these are like more than functional results. I mean, it's the first election that sent their votes to the minister. Okay, I mean, anyway, if we get the same percentage that we got in Emilia-Romagna, so if we are around the 1%, it will be perfect. I mean, as I said, it's already great and incredible to be here on the ballot. If by any chance we confirm what we got in Germania, it's perfect. It means that we are working as good as them because they have done an incredible work. They were amazing. If we get any small step forward, it will be it will be incredible. I think that's been great. So again, request for making already to be there because it was nearly to the 100 that we got was our first target. Whatever it comes, it will be more than enough, more than good. Then actually I get that I'm now results haven't still thing, but anyway, I'll be here around just to get connected in any moment you need.
We are going to post the results in the screen in a matter of a few seconds. In the meanwhile, if anyone else from Rome wants to intervene, is more than welcome. Daniele, okay, we are talking about an extremely small amount of votes, but the biggest thing here is that the five-star movement is gone, kind of disappeared from the political situation, from the political area. Would you have expected it? I think Daniele is off. I don't know if he can hear me at all.
Yeah, no, I'm off. Oh, you were talking to me. Yeah, sorry. No, I'm off. Oh, you were talking to me. Sorry, I was trying to delve in the labyrinth of the official results because all I could find right now was just
it was in
Turnout,
Messaggero. So this
is
news is from
18%
Il Messaggero, one of the daily newspapers in Rome. So it's not from official source; it's from a newspaper.
The source that I could find is the Roma Capitale. The source that I could find is the Roma Capitale website. It does disclaim that it's a result. So it does say it does disclaim that it's a result from taken from the. Let me actually read it out loud. They're basically some kind of exit poll. They're basically some kind of exit poll, and they are not to be taken as completely official, but they talk about 18%. I haven't found at the moment. That's all we have. I haven't seen. They're just gonna disclaim I haven't found any other results of sort. They're just gonna disclaim the Rome municipality as the central one is only going to give us the final result and not updates. It's hard to say what to expect for Volt. A party that is in its first place, it's the first election in that area. We are talking about we might see something that is party that is in its first place. It's the first election in that area. So we might see something that is similar to what happened in Emilia-Romagna, but it's hard to say if we are going to follow the same trend. It's actually in a place that might be politically similar in demographics. It's actually generally on the left. It's one of the places consistently over time used to vote in one specific similar result. We might see something completely different given the kind of consistently over time. So we might see a similar result. We might see something completely different, given the kind of outreach and presence in the street that Luca managed to do in a much smaller place. And also given the low turnout, we can see the 0.8, like we can see a 10%. How I wouldn't know. So I look forward to see this because only the result can tell us a natural result. How do we that? We have no data to base ourselves. We have no data to base ourselves.
Okay, we are going to update the screen in a matter of a few seconds, so you are going to see what is the actual outcome of the first polling station. It's not a good outcome for Volt, but it's gonna be still a long night with a few news. The recent news is actually that the turnout is at 18%, so there is it's nearly the double than what we had in Naples last week for what concerns the Senate election that prized the center-left candidate. The center-left is most likely going to win tonight as well, and this was no surprise. It is instead the collapse of the five-star movement that apparently was overrun even by two much smaller parties. We are going to be back around midnight, so let's take 10 minutes break and try to rest a little bit, because it's been almost an hour and a half we've been broadcasting for the Rome by election. Be back in less than 10 minutes, let's say 8 minutes. And we are back, with some interesting results because suddenly a lot of polling stations went out with the vote. So, Daniele, do you want to sum it up for us?
Yeah, is my mic on? Yes, my mic is on. All right, we finally have some official data. We actually had to wait a long time from the internal ministry to give us something. We have the official data about turnout, which is 17.66 people. So we have about 33,000 voters in total that turned out in about the more than 180,000 that have the right to vote. I would also like to notice this is from a non-official source, but it's on the website of the main Rome municipality that said that the male turnout, even if in percentage is higher of the female turnout, we have more women that voted in this single by-election than men, with 17,000 women voting and 15, almost 16,000 male voting. In that, now we have the minister gave us already the result of 118 sections polls out of the 200. So we have half of the total votes already counted, more or less. So we can say that the results that we have here are going to reflect pretty closely what we are going to see at the end. As expected, Gualtieri is leading with 10,000 votes, 60% of votes. The main adversary, the right-wing candidate, is 26% with 400, almost 4,500 votes. And our Volt candidate is at 0.9 with 151 votes counted at the moment. So we might expect to see Luca getting a bit more votes as we go along to the night. So maybe he can get to the 300 votes, maybe. But the results are very similar, yeah, to what we've seen in Emilia-Romagna. So we might see a kind of trend there. And about the five-star movement, the five-star movement is with 4.5%, which is the third party in the run, even if way far at a very distant third. But it's interesting because, as we said with Luca earlier, the five-star movement is in a downward spiral and basically didn't run. So the candidate had no effect on the result. We can surmise, which means that the symbol itself gained a 5% out of the possible votes that you would normally take.
Yeah. Now I was in the meanwhile. You may see the summarize of the results on the screen. At the moment, Volt is the last among the 7 candidates, which is not a good news. I mean, of course, the final percentage may not be so relevant because of the very low turnout. But indeed, I think we could say that in terms of facing the other candidates, especially those from the much smaller parties like the People of the Family, Power to the People, and the Communist Party, we could expect something more. At least that is my very, very personal opinion. Because I think that Luca is an extremely valid candidate, and probably we could see something different from this outcome. Of course, we are half of the count, so there is still room for improvement. We don't know which polling station were counted as first, so it may be that some polling stations where we were actually very, very present were better, but just to make a comparison with what was going on in 2018 when Volt was running. Volt was not running, but the capacity for that moment was at 73% of the turnout. That would have made Volt participation much less relevant than 0.9%. I mean, if the same amount of people that voted for Volt would show up and vote for us in that occasion, where actually it would have been much more relevant, because there would have been a sort of useful vote for the candidate which had more chance to win, which was not that much the case for tonight, because the parliament is already formed, so we know that one seat more or less won't make a huge difference. In that case, Volt participation would have been extremely less relevant, and with this result we are talking about maybe 0.1 or 0.2 of the percentage, which is let's say rather unsatisfying. Again, it's something that can improve during the night, and of course it is nothing that we can blame on the Rome chapter, because they have done an amazing job. But let's say in a more national perspective, I think we should evaluate this result a bit thoroughly, because 1 week ago in Hamburg, with very few resources and with an extremely unfavorable electoral law, we still receive 1.3% of the votes. And
yeah,
here I see something missing here. I don't know if you share my same point of view.
Okay, but let's look at it in a different light. It's very unfair to compare this vote to what we achieved in Hamburg, because Hamburg is in Germany, which is the country that had the most vote exposure. It made national news repeatedly and elected a candidate. So they are a known entity in Germany. They managed with few resources to bring home a good result, which is in line to the results that they had. It was an increase, an increment of a second election in which they already participated in a previous election in the same area. While a good benchmark of this result is the Emilia-Romagna vote, because we are seeing very similar results and very similar outreach. So we went in the streets also in Emilia-Romagna to gather signatures. We managed to gather all the signatures that we needed in that case, and we had votes to single candidates that went at the best candidates that get the candidates that got most votes were in the 300s in total. So we can see if it goes there. Our actual best candidate, our outlier, is Margherita Ippolito, who got 410 votes in, of course, the large Emilia-Romagna. So we can see that in this very small part, which is hard to compare, we are getting somewhere near to the result that we are getting in terms of proportion to the Emilia-Romagna vote by a single person, which I would say it's a good result. We are hoping to see it improve, and it's definitely something to build from.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm trying not to see it as negative as the number which is below 1 is showing. Of course, your approach is absolutely right, because I mean we got 0.43% in Emilia-Romagna, so we are kind of doubling that result. The aspect that I would like to analyze a bit better, of course there will be time in the next days with the local team, is that while Emilia-Romagna was an election where there was a lot of hype, because we I mean, there was a high turnout for being a local election, much higher than usual. Still, everyone voted, and not everyone was supposed to know the existence of vote. Today, with a low turnout, we could expect that very, very informed people, I mean, people that are daily reading the newspapers, and we all know that it's not so many people around, would have participated. So I think we could expect a more fidelity vote. I mean, I personally think that if we have to compare ourselves with the other small parties that are participating tonight, being behind them, despite, of course, two of the candidates weren't sitting in the parliament, Potere al Popolo has more resources than us because they are backed by a large network of social areas nearby the extreme left. Maybe we could expect something different from this result. I mean, or better, that's what I could see personally. It is true also what you said. So maybe we should compare this election in the future with a similar one. So if there is another by-election where we can run, that could be interesting to compare. Personally, what I see is that there is a strong lose from the Movimento 5 Stelle, which is clear. I mean, 4% compared to 16% of what they got 2 years ago. I'm wondering where the votes of Più Europa went, because Più Europa received nearly 10% of the vote 2 years ago, and those are votes of very loyal people, because it's a party that generally requires a lot of attention towards politics, and that party is not at the government right now. So I saw Più Europa as extremely close to Volt position, because Gualtieri is a pro-government candidate. Più Europa is not supporting this government, so we could expect a lot of centrist candidates to turn their vote to Luca, which probably was not the case, and that is something that we could have intercepted. I mean, a percentage of votes that we could have received, especially considering the big result that Più Europa had in Rome 2 years ago.
Yeah, we can say that we are campaigning in a much different way than Più Europa is doing, which is actually the reason why Più Europa reached to us via an open letter. They wanted to. It is clear that they wanted to find a way to diversify their reach, thanks to us, since we are loosely looking at the same final objective, which is a strong Europe. They wrote us an open letter to try and get us to connect more strictly than basically they were going on somewhere like a permanent alliance. We decided not to go in that direction because we want to maintain the unity of Volt as it is, and also Europa is going sometimes it is going in a different direction. So we want our ability to choose case by case. So it's I would try to look at this election not much in terms of percentage, but in terms of absolute voters, because being a by-election, and someone is in the comments is saying that this has been a very much voted by-election, so there is a relatively high turnout, being absolutely, even if we are talking 20%. So it will be interesting to see how many people are actually being reached by us through the streets, and see if we can start to pull some conversion numbers to see how many people we manage to get on our side. Our style of outreach through the social and through the streets it's ours. It's fairly new and has some unicities, which needs to be analyzed in isolation. Is what I think. So yeah, we are trying to compare to other parties, of course, and that's very good. But somehow we need to think outside of the box, because that's what Volt is doing actually.
There is an update about the result, which is mirroring more or less what we saw before. The 80% of the polling stations have been counted, so basically we are heading towards the closure of the count for tonight. It is clear that Roberto Gualtieri has won with 62.28%, over 16,000 votes for him. In second place, Maurizio Leo for the center-right coalition with 26.08. The third place, Movimento 5 Stelle, much far away from the first two candidates, Rossella Rendina with 4.36. In the fourth position, there is the candidate of the Communist Party, Marco Rizzo, with 2.53. Fifth place for Elisabetta Canitano, 2.49%. Popolo della Famiglia, the family people, Mario Dinolfi with 1.3%. And finally Volt with Luca Lomuzio Lezza with 0.96%, totaling 256 votes. So I don't think that we are going to see a different outcome as more than 80% of the votes.
We knew already, as we said at the beginning of the live, that when we, given the turnout, when you see the result at 50% of counted votes, we would have seen already something very close to the final, and this is in line with what you see. Now we are missing about 40 sections. And so we are very close. Luca is getting to 256 votes in.
I think we have Luca.
It's in line with what they managed to get.
Luca can hear us.
So yeah, if Luca, if you want to chime in, please do, because this is we're still gonna have to wait to see what your final result is. But you are getting close to the 300 votes, and you are 100 votes away from your natural enemy Adinolfi, which might seem like a lot, but we're talking someone that is new nationally in things actually. And so I would like to see what's your reaction about this at the moment.
Can you hear us?
I cannot hear Luca at the moment. So yeah, I think he's still on the at the moment. So there is being a party going on at his place, which has been the headquarters. There is being a party. We know that people are around there making the headquarters, celebrating the end of the campaign. So there's been celebrating the end of the technical issues on their side, but we are hoping to see them come back anytime soon. Yeah, he's got come back anytime soon. Yeah, he's got some problems with the microphone, because they were on the television set that they used to follow the result, and then they switch microphones, and they're gonna try to go and come back in a minute to give us their ideas. But already you see 256 votes is similar to what Gillo Baldassi and Marcello Santarelli got. Now we can hear you, yeah.
Now you're listening?
Now we can hear you, yeah. Bring your reaction, go, give it.
No, I mean, right now, it's exactly what we were hoping to get, because at the end we are around 1%. That actually was, I guess, I don't remember exactly, but I guess it's our best result here in Italy. And for sure...
You are very far around... the best result in Italy was 410 votes by Margherita Ippolito and we're not praising that woman enough.
No, this for sure. She was like an amazing candidate in Emilia Romagna, and it was perfect. No, I'm just speaking about like the percentage. Like,
No,
all
I'm
right,
sorry.
sorry about
I'm
that.
sorry. No, I have to correct you. 1.43% in Novi Ligure last year.
Oh, perfect. I mean, it was actually even a better result. But anyway, for us, it was okay because it was in line with the regional election in Emilia Romagna, and the result was good because again, 256 people to go to the ballots today and to vote, despite of all like the small amount of people that went. It's really good for us. It's a really nice place where to start from. As I said, it was already for us an amazing achievement to be on the ballots because it was really difficult for us. And of course, like for example, Adinolfi, he lives here, he was born here. Yes, I mean there are a lot of people here that could easily vote for him, and so of course it's we were the underdogs. And for sure, it was much harder for us to do this campaign, but the results at least gives us the. I mean, it's in line with what we expected. So it means that okay, we did understood how the thing goes, and knowing how it works is the best way to improve us and to get much better next time. And I mean, of course, this is. I mean, at least one person over 100 vote for already something really nice.
Luca, we were considering the results also of other candidates, and I think the biggest, maybe not, it's not a surprise, but it shows the crisis within the party that is ruling the city. Movimento 5 Stelle is nearly disappearing from the political map, despite they are the biggest party in the parliament.
Yeah, but it was hard to say that the Five-Star movement was used to take votes from the left, and they have been now that they've been losing ground, we can possibly see a rise of the Partito Democratico, even without Renzi and his Italia Viva, or we can find a spot for votes to get votes.
Luca, are you there?
Here I am. The point is that for sure, are you listening?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I mean, the point is that of course here in Rome, we had the mayor that was expressed from the 5 stars, and as I said before, it was harsh for the 5 star movement to do a campaign against their own economy minister. So I'm not that much surprised by the vote that they got, because at the end it was something like expected. Because the point is this, that more like the greatest part of their electors just didn't want to vote, I guess. For sure, we can imagine that these people that doesn't no longer feel I mean, doesn't recognize themselves anymore in this party. It's quite likely for them to vote for a party in the center left. And for sure, it's more likely to have them voting for something like Volt that is new and is not like the center left, like the PD that they were fighting against till 2, 3, 4 months ago. So for sure, we can get a part of this vote. But at the same time, I must say that there are quite some differences between us and them. So I mean, it depends. It can be that a lot of these votes will go directly in the people that just don't go to vote anymore. Probably this sheet number.
See, I would like to wait on the final results to see how many votes you're getting. You are faring pretty good, and so we might hope to get you to see you towards you're very close to the 1%, which is again a very good result. And we have to the part that we have to get is the campaign learnings from every campaign, because we have been running in in widely different campaigns, regional campaigns here, regional campaign in Germany, and even if there might be some common learnings in the European in the way that we run all over Vault, all around Europe, there is definitely something very specific to the Roman community that you might learn now for the next time that you are running, which might be in just a year.
Yes, for sure we learn a lot, and for sure all the things that we learn will be more than useful on the next election. And the point is that we do want to know each day the city better and better in a way that we are able to produce some policies that can be really useful for the life of the citizens of Rome. So this is our aim, and I guess that it will be a long-term work, but
Right.
sure, this was already the first step towards that direction.
Yeah, that is actually a very interesting point that you're bringing. Enrico, you trying to say something?
No, I'm actually texting because I'm trying to figure out who was earning the most of the votes tonight. If you bear with me, if you can keep talking, if you give me a few seconds, I will come back to you.
Right, yeah, because we look at just touched on an interesting point that is worth mentioning is the fact that we need to work constantly with the community, and so the how do you think the day-to-day work of Volt Roma is going to change after this election? What do you think worked well? What do you think could work better?
I mean, it's hard to say it right now.
Yeah, definitely. But
I mean, what worked quite well was our communication. I think that on the social we have done something at least interesting, something new. I do think that the policies, like all the policy team that have been supporting us, creating the documents that we needed for the program and to face the interviews. They were really amazing, both the Roma1 and the national one. And so these were really this was our strength. For sure, there were a lot of activists that worked a lot. They worked their ass off during the collection of signature, and they were just amazing, because really I've seen some girls and guys staying more time on the street with us collecting signature than at home with their friends, their family, and whatever. And it was for sure amazing. So for sure this was really like working perfectly. What we can improve a bit, it's all the rest. I mean, all there is around these activities, and it's a lot of things that we have to do on several sides. But at least we learned. Like we know that some things are harder. That during the campaign you have to do things quickly, and you have to be really responsive, like reactive with things that are happening around. And you have to learn how to leave people doing things, because you cannot do everything alone. And I mean, this was fun.
In the meanwhile, I came out with the progression of votes in that constituency compared to 2 years ago, when the seat was awarded to Paolo Gentiloni. Volt is, in this occasion, the third biggest grower of the election. The center-left coalition grew the best as they received 47.23. Bear in mind that there were two candidates at the time because they didn't run together, the Democratic Party and the Free and Equals, which sits more on the left. They were supporting the same candidate in this occasion, so putting them together, they earned 15% more. The second biggest grower is the Communist Party, who was nearly non-existent last time. They got 0.37%. In this occasion, they earned 2.16%. Volt is the third biggest grower, as we did not participate in this occasion. We got 0.9%. So if we want to see it positively, we are actually the third party in terms of growth among seven. The Popolo della Famiglia, the conservative homophobic party, socially conservative party, it got 0.73% more. Power to the People is faring nearly the same with 0.27, and then there are two parties instead, or two coalitions that went negatively. The center-right coalition lost 4.73% compared to the last election, and they actually may have got some votes from the extreme right, which was of Casa Pound and Forza Nuova, which were not participating in this occasion.
Well, if you will listen to Twitter, they definitely did.
Yeah, most likely. And the Five Star Movement is the biggest loser with minus 12.44%. So the Five Star Movement was literally wiped out the political map in Rome.
Yeah. If you notice the fourth and fifth party, so if you look at the left, the out-left party, the far left, the Partito Comunista and Potere al Popolo combined, get more votes than the Five Star Movement, which is very interesting. It means the far left got more votes than the Five Star Movement, which used to be an expression of some kind of left veering towards the right at some points. It's interesting that when you talk about the Five Star Movement, you don't know where to place them anymore.
I think it depends a lot on the geographical position. I mean, probably in northern Italy they took more votes from the right. In southern Italy they took more votes from the left.
Yeah, but even if you don't look just at the people that vote for them, it's their position in terms of policies that kind of oscillates between left and right. Just a reminder that when we say that Volt struggles to say if it's left or right, it's because of the political scenario that we are looking at right now, in which there is far left, there is far right, there is a far right, and there is an alternative right right now, which is veering more and more to the radicalization, and Volt sits in the middle of this, where there is it's hard to say to put a political compass straight and say, are you on this side or on that side? We are not on none of these sides that we can see, and so it's interesting that politics is changing. This polarization is moving in a different direction, and the Five Star Movement is falling under this change, while some extreme movements are gaining.
Well, in that sense, I'm not too surprised because the far left has always been really present. I mean, their voters are literally always voting. It's people that cared about their position, and in that sense, it is presence that they always showed. Probably, it is likely that they didn't fare too good at the general election 2 years ago because they were not running in a coalition, so voting for them was nearly as wasting a vote. The Five Star Movement instead is an expression of people which were dissatisfied with the politics in general, so it is likely that they were not too aware of the fact that today there was a vote. So in that sense, the Movimento 5 Stelle is probably losing a lot on the fact that when there is a big hype around an election, they may be present. We saw also in Emilia-Romagna that that was not the case because they fared really poorly there. The extreme left in this occasion, I think it is explained easily by the fact that people being active in the far left are active in any case, with high turnout or with low turnout. I'm wondering if we have anyone else from Rome. Not that we want to send away Luca, but I was wondering if we had anyone else from Rome chapter.
Yeah, who's around your home? Are people still there?
There's Giuseppe here with me, but
Well, yeah, he's never leaving.
of course, I mean, he have worked for this campaign more than anyone else, more than me also. So first we wanna see the results, but Silvia and Guido and the other guys just left because of the Domenica Ecologica that there is today. So they needed to get back to their house before
before you had to organize a giant sleepover at your place.
Yeah, exactly. The other option was this one, but as soon as we got the results of the majority of the section, now we are 179 over 218. So okay, we got the results. We understand that we are around the 1%, and so we can sleep calm. We can sleep tight, at least knowing.
Yeah, so yeah, okay, Giuseppe is still there. Does he want to say something to us? I would say, yeah.
Okay, Giuseppe, you want to say something? I can do the translation. Nothing.
All right.
He's a shy.
Yes. Yeah, okay. He works a lot on the inside, and as you said, he is to be commended for. He is to be commended.
Exactly. You couldn't say it better.
Yeah, he is to be commended for the work. Yeah, he works a lot from behind the scenes. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of appreciation from voters to the work that he does. I would say it's hard to say when new information will come in, but we have a pretty clear picture of the votes. What do you say, Enrico?
Well, first of all, you're going to see soon also the difference of votes compared to 2018 general elections. So where the votes went compared to 2 years ago, where the center-left coalition still won, but with a much smaller difference within the center-right. And I think this is going to show especially the big swipe of votes that went from the center, or better, from the five-star movement towards the center-left coalition. I would say tonight's result for Volt can be extremely important in terms of experience, because we know now what the political debate requires, which is something maybe we weren't, I don't know if we were ready for that when we tried to run at the European election, which we didn't manage to because the signature threshold was extremely high and it became nearly impossible to run without entering a coalition with any other party. So I think in terms of understanding the landscape, the political landscape, we made a huge step forward. And in fact, I don't want my evaluation from before being too negative, because I think we still earned a huge experience from the general atmosphere that was created around this vote. Of course, it was a vote that probably gathered more people because so many candidates were popular. I mean, the Minister of Economy, the two former members of the Parliament as Marco Rizzo and Maria Dinolfi. So probably there was a big difference between the votes of 2 years ago for those candidates, because they were not running by themselves, but they had some other people in their place, especially the Communist Party and the people of the family. So indeed, for Volt, that is a step forward. You cannot go a step back. Let's say my doubts come out of the fact that we could have got votes from those centrist parties that may not be satisfied with this government and are taking a different approach. I'm referring to Renzi's new party, Italia Viva, which was not running tonight and is putting at risk the stability of the government because it has a very, very tight majority at the Senate. And Più Europa, which was faring really good 2 years ago in this constituency and is sitting at the opposition despite they were running with the center-left coalition 2 years ago. Those were votes that maybe we could have received, and if we did not, we should try to understand why, because that's a political area where there is a lot to catch, especially in big cities. Maybe not in rural areas, but in a big city like Rome, this is a political area which is really relevant, and it would be interesting to understand why those people, which probably went to vote, didn't vote for us, and maybe voted for the left candidate, which is really, really politically orientated towards the left. I mean, it's much more leftist than Gentiloni, which is the outgoing member of the parliament. I don't know, what do you think?
I mean, it's difficult to, because the point is that first of all, really few people went to vote, so this already exchanged a bit the relationship between the parties and what is the actual situation among the citizens of Rome. For sure, the point is that a lot of people following also the Sardine movement were voting for Gualtieri no matter what, because of he was the oppositor toward the center right. So it was something like, okay, or Salvini or Gualtieri. So I guess that a lot of people just voted for him no matter what, no matter if he was more progressive, more pro-Europe or whatever it was. It was something like, okay, he's from the center-left, he's the oppositor of a different kind of politics that is the one that is embodied by Salvini and the Lega. For sure, well, it's interesting, the results of the Fratelli Popolo and the Communist Party, but we must understand also that in Rome there are huge communities that goes back to this political approach. It's really it's a huge community, let's define it like this. So really what kind of surprised me, but at the end I was expecting such a result. I mean, not so bad, but still not so far from the one that they got, is the Fatsa movement, because really 4.36, it's really a really few votes for them, because at the end they got 5 times our votes, and we are no one. Let's say we are the new one, the new and they are the one running the city. They are the government. They got much more money than what we do, so they could afford a much better campaign. And so, really, I mean, it's hard to say what we can expect from the future here in Rome, as only the 15 and the 17% of the people that could vote went at the end to the ballots. But at the same time, for sure, we can have some hope that all the people that at the end, instead of choosing between Gualtieri or the center-right candidate, and decided not to go to vote because of many reasons, perhaps. At the end, these people, they can easily recognize themselves in our policies, in our values. And so I do think that actually we have a huge space for growing in this city, but I guess actually everywhere in Italy. And the point is just that we have to understand how to get to these people, like how we have to communicate with them, how we can get to know them, how we can be trustable for them and trustworthy. So as soon as we figure out all these aspects, I guess it Vault has really big chances in the future, not only of the city, but of the whole country and of course of the whole continent.
Thank you very much, Luca. I would say it is time for us to go to sleep, basically. Luca, are you taking a day off from work tomorrow?
No, actually, I guess that tomorrow I will be working. But anyway, for sure, it was a pleasant night, at least.
Absolutely. So, just to recap a little bit what has been going on tonight and what will go on in the next days. Tonight, at the by-election in Rome, Roberto Gualtieri from the center-left coalition was imposing himself as a new member of the parliament. So the center-left coalition is retaining the seat in Rome, and the majority and the lower chamber is not changing. Next week there will be actually another by-election in Umbria to replace Donatella Tesei, which became the president of Umbria. She's from Salvini's party, and at the Senate there is an extremely tight majority of a couple of seats. So in case the left or Movimento 5 Stelle will manage to get that seat, the majority will be a little bit stronger, and I think there will be a little bit of more pressure in next week's vote. We are not going to follow it, as Volt is not going to be involved, but we will be back in 2 weeks, Sunday the 15th, because there will be 2 countries being involved in an election on that day. Those 2 countries will be France, where we are running in Lille and Paris, and in Germany, where we are running for municipal elections in Bavaria, in Munich and Bamberg. So let's take 1 weekend off, because on the 15th of March we will be live for probably a much longer time for 2 municipal elections, where we really hope to get some members of our party in a local institution, in some local institutions in 2 countries that are extremely critical and extremely important for the economy of and the political stability of Europe.
Right. Yeah. There's it's gonna be interesting to follow the next slides. Apart for what this is concerned, I say we have we have reached all the votes that we could count at the moment. And as always, it's great to follow the growth of votes from this close, and having the chance to talk with our candidates and exchange it with the people that follow us through the chat and from all over Europe. to see even the smallest efforts that we do, how we are doing it, and what they can learn from it, in order to run the same kind of campaign, and in order to take those learnings and run in the next campaigns all over Europe. That's so good, so interesting to be in this party and following these lives. So thanks for everybody who joins it, by the way.
Enriquez, thanks you a lot for having me. It was actually a pleasure and an honor to be with you and to analyze the results live. And next time, at least, I will be just following your amazing live.
Thank you, and we are hoping for you to run in the next election that you have the chance to run in, because we need politicians involved. It might sound as a surprise for everybody, but Volt needs politicians, and your presence has been very important for the movement. You have briefly been in this window of time the most important person in Volt Italia, because you were the one out there getting the votes for us. And as the Tuscania movement will come, Elisa Meloni will be our new most important voters. And I want to hammer on this point that the most important voters is the one getting the votes for us right now.
And I'm sure that Lisa will do an amazing job because she's really an amazing candidate. I couldn't be more happy of like handing over my this role of being the one out there. So it will be really amazing in Tuscany.
May 31st, the day of regional elections, where Volt will participate in Tuscany, maybe also in Veneto. We still really don't know what is going on there. I hope our friends from Veneto will send us some updates soon. I think, as in Tuscany, we already decided since several months, probably in Veneto there is still a little bit of debate. The Volt is going to run also in a coalition with some political partners in Trentino Alto Adige, a region which is bordering Austria. May the 3rd in Bolzano and Trento, Volt will be running in, and that will be our next appointment. It may be also the case of Catalonia, the famous political region of Spain where Barcelona is placed, which has been striving at least partially for independence or higher autonomy level. The local assembly is likely to be dissolved soon, so there is a chance that there will be a vote in late spring also in Barcelona. We will provide you information about it, but on behalf of Volt Italy and Volt Europe, thank you very much for listening to us tonight. We will hear each other again in 2 weeks for the local elections in Lille, Paris, Munich and Bamberg. Thank you very much, and thank you for all of you who have been intervening tonight.